DETV Sports Update is powered by DART, Delaware's transit service. Moving forward.
Happy Eagles Victory Monday and a big satisfying win in the NFC Championship. The Birds, they're heading back to the Super Bowl again for the first time since a few years ago, and where they'll see a familiar face in a repeat here with the Kansas City Chiefs. And welcome in here to DETV Sports, an exciting Monday evening here today. Nick Alessandrini alongside Matthew Maurer. We're here to break down our championship games from yesterday. We're going to take a look ahead to the Super Bowl in less than 2 weeks. And then we're going to round it out with some of the coaching carousel here in the NFL. An action-packed show tonight, Matthew. Here we are.
Yep.
And a team, and again, I'm going to give you credit here off the top of the show. A team that you were high on, and I know it wasn't easy for you.
Nope.
Was the Philadelphia Eagles. Here they are in the Super Bowl taking on your guy Patrick Mahomes here in the big game. So I just want to get your initial thoughts. We're going to dive all into this here in a few minutes. But initial thoughts on the Eagles and Chiefs heading to New Orleans.
I mean, I think it's the match that I kind of knew was going to happen. It was going to be a chance to see history either way. I'm excited to see if Saquon gets his title. I think he's been much maligned during his career. I'm excited if the Chiefs make history. So I think it's a win-win. I think it's going to be a great game, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun one. Again, Saquon Barkley picking up where he left off in that game against the Commanders. You know, we go back to the offseason. I know me and you were big proponents of the Eagles signing Saquon Barkley. They did so, and it paid off big time. We're going to have a little discussion about that here. And maybe Saquon Barkley, one of the biggest free agent acquisitions in NFL history in terms of the following year and the success that the Eagles have had. 15 carries, 118 yards for Saquon, 3 touchdowns for Barkley in that game yesterday. Also, Jalen Hurts able to get in the end zone 3 times, courtesy of the tush push. First teammates in a playoff game to rush for 6 touchdowns together as a pair in NFL history. And you want to know another interesting stat?
What's up?
And this one's for Dennis's brother, who is a Dallas Cowboys fan.
Okay.
Eagles had 7 rushing touchdowns in the game yesterday. 7 in just the NFC Championship game. Cowboys have 6 rushing touchdowns all season this year.
I know I got Rico Dowdle. It's been bad, man. It's been bad.
I hate taking shots at, maybe the Cowboys here early on. They're relevant. I don't even like to talk about it. We shouldn't. So we are going to move on. A.J. Brown back on track, 6 catches for 96 yards. He found the end zone. Again, Jalen Hurts looked pretty good this one, Matt. 110 quarterback rating, 250 and a score, ran for 3, so he combined for 4 touchdowns there. But again, the defense, the big story in this one, right, able to shut down Jaden Daniels as well. So the Eagles, 55 points, the most ever in a championship game history. And then the defense locking up the phenom, Jaden Daniels, and holding them to just 23 points. What stood out to you maybe the most when you watched this game and has the Eagles got the victory at home?
I'm going to tell you what stood out. And I'm looking at the camera because I need somebody to help me out here. I saw the most dominant player in the NFL this season literally break the other team with one play in the beginning. Okay. And this is what I tell people. Like, I know I have this history of being an Eagle hater, but I said before it got in vogue that Saquon Barkley should have got MVP. I don't know how people who watch this game don't see that this guy, whenever he gets going, it's over. And and that's the problem. He gets a full head of steam, it's over. The only thing that has ever stopped Saquon Barkley, if we're being honest, has been the team he's played on, which was the Giants, and the lack of talent that they had, or just little weird injuries. That's it. The guy has always had talent since day one he came in the league, and again, I mean, to me, he's the league MVP. I know he may not be the media choice, but to me, he's the people's choice. I don't see how this guy didn't get it. He wasn't even in the top 2, which to me is, again, insane. And there has to be a discussion by the NFL in terms of, is it the most valuable player or is it the most valuable quarterback? Because I'm just telling you right now, to me, he is arguably the best. I don't think it's arguably. He's the best player on the best team, on one of the best teams. At the end of the day, should have got MVP, and he really made the Commanders suffer, and he set the whole tone from the beginning.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with you. What an acquisition that was in the offseason. I know Giants taking a lot of heat, but wouldn't have necessarily had the same results, right? Saquon would be doing this behind that Giants offensive line. Giants wouldn't make the playoffs. So I get the whole, Giants messed up. They did, as usual. But again, what an acquisition and what he's been able to do here for the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, going for that record late, obviously, in the regular season, had a chance to break Eric Dixon's regular season record. They held him out of that game. So again, maybe if he does that, or if he scores one of those 13 touchdowns that Jalen Hurts had at the 1-yard line, maybe we're having a different discussion. I don't know for sure, because like you said, it is tailored towards the quarterbacks. You look at college football, the Maxwell Award, a quarterback award, then the Heisman for the best player, but it usually goes to a quarterback in that scenario as well. Saquon Barkley needs about 42 yards to break the all-time rushing record in a season held by Terrell Davis and the Denver Broncos when they won that Super Bowl back when. So 42 yards, and he will have the biggest rushing season in NFL history in totality. Again, that would be quite the accolade for Saquon Barkley. And again, I'm with you. I think maybe he should have had a better shot at the MVP this year.
Yeah. I mean, again, what do you want him to do? I just don't know. He's arguably the best player on the best team. And I just don't know what else we're asking non-QBs to do. I mean, he gets the ball. He demands the defense to pay attention to him. He opens up other possibilities for the Eagles offense. I don't know what else he could have done this year. I mean, he's literally a video game, and I don't know what else he could have done. So the NFL, they need to get that together. And then again, it's no shade to Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen, the two finalists that ended up being for the MVP award. But again, I saw the MVP this weekend.
I agree with you. Jamar Chase tweeting last night that he thinks Saquon Barkley was the MVP, and Jamar Chase won the Triple Crown this year with the receptions, yards, and touchdowns. So congratulations to him. But again, he even thinks Saquon Barkley should be the MVP. Eagles going back to the Super Bowl. We're going to talk a little bit about more of what to expect with them and the Chiefs here as we progress tonight. But let's talk a little bit about the Commanders now. Again, exceeding expectations. They get to the NFC Championship game. Lose this one by 32 points. Wasn't their night, but what a season they had. Jaden Daniels, the best rookie quarterback season of all time. Commanders, a team that you're really going to have to look out for in the NFC. A few acquisitions away from being one of those top-tier teams. I mean, they showed it here already this year. What's kind of your expectation for the Commanders going forward and into next season?
To cut Eckler and Jeremy McNichols. It's over. Like, I'm be honest with you. When my man fumbled that special teams play, McNichols, dude, I would have already been telling him, like, yo, man, just go to the locker room, dog. Just go to the locker room. I don't even want to see you. You're like a Jonah. I don't even want you I don't even want you part of the team, man. Like, it was so bad. And then Eckler, like, look, I get it. He's at the end of his career. He's a little long on the 2 feet. I know he has limitations being his size and everything else, but what I saw was a young phenom struggling with the middling pieces that they have, other than McLaurin and some other pieces that they have. Other than that, I mean, he really didn't get help.
Yeah, so Terry McLaurin is he's good. It's finally, it's nice to see him get the flowers that he deserves. Been with so many bad quarterbacks over the years there in Washington. Now finally has a good one, and it's showing. He was phenomenal. He didn't get a lot of looks down the stretch of that game. Had that big touchdown catch, and then they took him completely away in that game. So again, we'll see how they do next year. I have a feeling, like you said, Commanders going to be up in the mix next year. I think they're only going to get better. Dan Quinn did such a good job there this year. I think they're going to be battling for that division next year there in Washington. But while we're with the NFC East, I do want to talk about the Dallas Cowboys. Like I said, Brian Schottenheimer introduced today. We're going to talk about the coaching carousel. Brian Schottenheimer, totally off the grid, hasn't had a head coach interview in over 13 years, and now he's the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, it's crazy. It kind of feels like we're living in a simulation here. What in the world is Jerry Jones do? It just, like, whenever you think it can't get any worse as a Dallas Cowboys fan, and maybe we're wrong. Maybe Brian Schottenheimer comes in and he's unbelievable. He totally changes everything, the game or something. But on paper, this just looks like a random hire that's just totally out of left field.
Yeah.
Again, hasn't had a head coach interview in 13 years. He's now the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. What is going on in Dallas?
I don't know, but I love it. I got to be honest with you. I got to look, full transparency. I'm a 49ers fan. Dallas is an op. So, look, great job there, Jerry. Continue on the wonderful hiring, because I'm sorry, bro. Like, I don't know what Jerry, like, I don't even know if Jerry knows what year we're in right now. Like,
yeah, is it 1997?
Like, is this 98? Like, what are you doing right now, bro? Like, look, respect. I mean no disrespect, but I mean all disrespect. I don't know what he's doing. I don't. Like, it's crazy to me. And look, if I know Eagles feel the same way I do. Look, they're op, and I'm glad that they are just so inept. It's just, I love it.
It's crazy, too, because you think about it. We sat here with Dr. Aaron Basso weeks ago talking about how Mike McCarthy, there was a chance that he would come back. And we were all for it. We were like, yes, bring him back. We'd love to see Mike McCarthy in the playoffs again, potentially, especially after what they went through this year. They let him go. I was a little upset when they did that. I mean, now if somebody else can come in, maybe they get a good coach.
Right.
Brian Schottenheimer. So for Eagles fans, 49ers fans, we didn't think it could get any better, but I think it might have gotten a little better here in the last week. Again, they introduced him today in Dallas, his first time as a head coach. Obviously, his father, Marty Schottenheimer, a successful head coach in the NFL, the 9th father-son duo to become coaches in the NFL, which I do think is an interesting thing there.
So, quick question: where was he during these last?
I think he was with Dallas. I think he was. And again, I apologize. I definitely know, but I think he's with Dallas. Yes, he was with Dallas as the offensive coordinator. So Mike McCarthy, I believe, called the plays. Not sure if he gave up play calling duties, but.
I mean, we'll find out.
Was the offense really good this year, enough to elevate Brian Schottenheimer to the head coaching position?
They might have just went to the special teams guys. It's about the same move to me. I mean, hey.
So we'll see. And again, not only that, Cowboys are in quite an uphill battle going into next year, just in terms, of cap money, et cetera. Dak Prescott signing that deal last year. He has I believe, an $80 million cap hit for next season. Daniels has 13 and Hurts has 20.
Good job.
So they are looking at an uphill battle to improve that roster. CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott make up 75% of the salary. It's going to be tough for the Cowboys to get back into the mix there, at least with off-season additions. So we'll see how it goes. But again, Dak Prescott, a huge cap hit coming off of that big contract last year. Or this year, signed it before opening day. What a day.
It's nasty work, man.
Oh, yes, it was.
But it's the best work.
We're going to move on here from the Cowboys for a second. We're going to get into the Bills and the Chiefs.
Yep.
And we know how good Patrick Mahomes is. I mean, we sit up here, we may not necessarily like him the best for what he's done to our teams in the past years, but we're not blind. We know how good he is. And
he sounds like Kermit the Frog, but yeah.
And one of the best of all time. So here he is back in the Super Bowl. Again, a lot of talk this week, and I'm a big Josh Allen guy, was the Bills were going to come in. This was the year. The Bills had the team. They've been playing well. They've been forcing turnovers. The defense is good. Josh Allen's been fantastic. This was supposed to be the year that the Bills finally got over the hump. 0-4 against Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs is Josh Allen. So this was going to be the year. I mean, I came in here and talked with Dennis on Thursday, and I know you felt the same way. Why? What was going to be different this time than the last 3 or 4 years? I mean, I didn't get you lose Diggs, the defense is injured, et cetera. There's not really a lot of things you can point to. They just thought the way they were playing now would have been the reason they were going to win. Chiefs, though, they get the W, 32-29. Josh Allen and the Bills had a chance down the stretch. We'll see if Dennis can pull that clip for us here maybe on the back screen of Dalton Kincaid unable to catch that last ball. But Patrick Mahomes does it again. And again, you think about 5 or 6 years ago when everything he did was MVP status, right? 5,000 yards passing, 40-something touchdowns. He has now adapted completely to just winning games, right? He does whatever it takes to win the games. If that's running the ball, throwing the ball, whatever. And they did it again. When they needed the big plays, he made it for them. 2 big fourth-down scrambles, including the touchdown that he was able to take in at the goal line. Chiefs-Eagles, we got a rematch. Chiefs do it again. They're going for a record 3rd straight, so we've never seen anything like that.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And we sat here all year saying maybe they don't have the most talent, but they just kept winning games. 1 loss since last year on Christmas. Yeah. That's it. And again, I mean 2, but you take away the one against the Broncos when they didn't play anybody. 1 loss in over a year and more and some change of football for this Chiefs team. May not be the prettiest, style of play, but they get the job done. Andy Reid's now propelling himself into the best coach of all time conversation, I believe, if they were to win this one. Your thoughts on the Chiefs, your guy Patrick Mahomes, and I don't think we had any doubt that we were going to see him again in this game.
Yeah, I mean, I think what teams are doing right now is they're falling into a little bit of a trap where they're saying, I'm going to take Kelsey away. And they don't realize that Xavier Worthy is starting to come into his own.
Yes, he is.
I think the real piece that I think a lot of people have to pay attention to is Kareem Hunt has started to take on a little bit more of a role. Pacheco's starting to get more and more involved. That could be kind of nasty. I remember that one year where they had McKinnon who was catching and
Damian Williams, I think the year before that, those random third down guys.
This is what they do. This is what they do. So I think that's the danger piece for Philly going into the Super Bowl matchup. I think they got to really pay attention to Kareem Hunt. He really gives them some different looks, does different things on that. I think Pacheco is more of a traditional pound guy, but I think Hunt has that ability to really get in there and run between the tackles, but also catch and create space. So again, Hunt, I think, is the key piece, though.
Yeah, this comes down to me, just looking at the X's and O's in terms of offensive line and defensive line. This battle up front, the only game we ever saw Patrick Mahomes lose, at this level was to the Patriots in the AFC Championship game years ago. And how did they do that? Internal pressure, right up the middle. Those defensive tackles got by the center of those guards. They got him pressured up the middle and forced some errant throws there. And that was the only game that we can go back that he lost of this high-level magnitude. And I think the Eagles can do that. I think the Chiefs' defensive or offensive line has been beat up all year. They moved Joe Tooney, was an all-pro guard a few years ago. They moved him to tackle. There's some switches going up. Creed Humphrey's still fantastic at center. As you see some of the highlights here behind us. But for me, with Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, and those guys on the edge, I just think they can control. If they can control the line of scrimmage, you got to pressure Mahomes. That's the only way you can beat that guy. So you got to bring the pressure. I think it's going to have to be a huge Jalen Carter. I know it's a lot of pressure on the young man, but Jalen Carter's been fantastic. He's going to have to be even better against the Chiefs in a few weeks.
Yeah, no, I love the way Jalen Carter's playing.
Man, he's been something else.
I mean, he's putting his name in some serious contention in that Eagles uniform on the defensive side. I mean, I know he's not there yet, but he's creeping. He's creeping.
I mean, we think about what Fletcher Cox did for all those years, right? Super Bowl champion, how good he was, and Jalen Carter has just so quickly kind of entered himself into that conversation. He has just been so good, and not to mention his running mates. I think one of the big ones, too, for the Eagles off the edge has been Nolan Smith. He has been last year it took him a little while to get going. He was a first-round pick, didn't really live up to the hype last year. What a playoff run he has had. He had 4 sacks coming into the game yesterday. That was an Eagles playoff career high for the second man out of Georgia. So he has been fantastic. Those Bulldogs up front have been great. They're going to have to be, of course, like I said, even better when they have to take on the Chiefs here in a few weeks. And again, that's going to be a fun one. We'll be here the day after, and maybe we'll have a show for you that Saturday or Sunday leading up to the Super Bowl. We have done that here a few times in the past, but now I want to focus on the Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen. Fourth time they've lost to the Chiefs. They just can't get over the hump. I mean, they've been kind of the second best team in the AFC alongside the Ravens over the last 3 or 4 years, both of them not able to beat Patrick Mahomes and get to that big game. What are your thoughts now on Buffalo? McDermott, obviously, what do you think about him, right? I mean, they're obviously good every year. They have the best regular season record in the last 5 years without a Super Bowl appearance. That's how good they've been in the regular season and even in the beginning of the playoffs. But they can't get over the hump. Do you maybe look at McDermott's job? What changes would you make over there in Buffalo? Something's got to give over there.
I mean, honestly, I think it's attrition just setting in. I mean, I think every time they get a piece, they rely on that piece, and then that piece kind of wears out because they don't get over that hump. So the problem is like with Diggs. Diggs was perfect. He spent a couple years there. Then the tension between him and Allen happened, and next thing you know, he leaves. You have Cook now, who's emerged as one of the better running backs.
That's good. Yeah.
Kincaid is still getting his feet. I think he has the talent.
Yeah.
And I really am intrigued with Shakur, but the problem with him is he doesn't look like a guy that really has the ability to stretch defenses. He's really good in the short catches. Yeah. But in terms of like taking the top off of the defense, he doesn't have that ability. So I think Keon Coleman is still coming into his own. He still doesn't know how to really run routes as well.
Yeah, he had a couple interesting plays yesterday. I'm surprised they went to him in those one-on-one situations.
Yeah, I think they were trying to get that advantage in the red zone. And again, I think the other side that no one talks about, we talk about Josh Allen, we talk about the weapons, and he's doing a lot, but also the defensive side has struggled.
Man, they and I agree with you, they didn't look good at all yesterday.
No.
And again, and if you look at the stats, they haven't been good either. Just they've been able to take the ball away so much this year. One of the best turnover ratio teams. That's where they found their success, but weren't able to force that many turnovers yesterday. And again, that's what I agree with. I think the defense has let them down now a few years in a row. Sean McDermott, we were talking before the show about head coaches that have their hands on one side of the ball. That's Sean McDermott's defense. They just have not been able. Not a lot of talent. They had some injuries with Benford yesterday. Kyer Elam had to come in. He did not look good. There, the rookie out of Florida, not rookie out of Florida, been out of Florida now a few years. He has not looked good there. And I think to me it's the defense. They got a few pieces up front, but they got to add to that defense. And like the Eagles did this year, right? We had that conversation. If they're able to transform that defense into I want to say above average in the top 10 to 12 teams defensively, they're going to have a real shot. But until they do that, you're not stopping Patrick Mahomes in these high-level games. Again, 32 hung by the Chiefs in this one. And again, first half, the first couple drives, they didn't even see a third down.
Correct.
For Kansas City. So they got some momentum late. Did Buffalo, unable to hold it off.
And the problem's not even just the Chiefs. I mean, they're in a situation where, it's the Chiefs this year, but you also have, Cincinnati. You also have the Ravens
next year.
I think, and look, again, maybe I'm doubting Holmes, and that's one of the things I try not to do, but I really think that this is the last swan song for a little bit for the Chiefs.
Wow.
I think next year, I think they're going to have to make some hard choices. I think they're going to have to move from Kelsey. They have to make some choices because I just think they have some aging pieces there as well. And I think, again, we see what Mahomes is doing with the talent that they have on the offensive side. That defensive side has gotten good enough that some of those guys will start getting paychecks, and they got to figure out who they're going to keep and who they're not going to keep.
You know, we saw last year, right? L'Jarius Sneed, one of the best corners in the league. They lost him. They looked like they were really struggling earlier on the year without him. They had McDuffie to the outside.
Right.
He's an all-pro slot corner, so a bunch of changes there that took them some time, to adjust to. And again, we're going to see Karlaftis coming up from when his rookie deal is going to be up. Bolton's been fantastic.
Yeah,
like you said, some of those guys are going to be coming up. We'll see how they keep it going. What I want to talk about, and this is what drove me insane yesterday, was James Cook. And you mentioned it earlier. He looked great in that game yesterday. He looked great. He was killing the Chiefs. Let me give you a stat for you. 140 yards and 2 touchdowns on 16 touches. 8.7 yards per touch for James Cook in that game yesterday. Did not have a touch on the final drive of the game. Not only that, he wasn't in the backfield on first down. They ran the ball on first down to the final drive with Ty Johnson. And again, maybe it'll come out that he was banged up, et cetera. I saw him on the sideline. I think that is just coaching malpractice. I mean, you deserve to lose the game if that's what you're going to do. I mean, you saw he was the biggest part of their offense all game long. Obviously, Josh Allen is Josh Allen, but he was killing him. I just gave you the stats. For him not to be on the field or even get a touch on that final drive and, do or die time, season on the line, I think it's just absolutely insane. I could not believe it yesterday. I mean, just asinine, in my opinion.
Yeah, other than Barkley, he was the second best offensive player in both games. I mean, he was phenomenal.
He's been fantastic.
And in terms, and forget his running. What he was able to do in screens and catching and extending plays, I mean, he was, to me, it was malpractice out there for him to just be on the sidelines and have Ty Johnson there. And in respect to Ty Johnson, he's a solid third down back.
But what are we doing?
But it's
first down, the final drive. Yeah. He's a third down back to begin with. I mean, it's just insane there. In the last 7 games, James Cook has 8 touchdowns. In the last 7 games, did not give that man a touch on the final 6-play drive. Of course, a fourth down non-conversion for Josh Allen. Let me get your thoughts on the Kincaid play. Should he have made that catch?
Honestly, I was just amazed that the ball got there.
Yeah, when he threw it, and I thought I didn't know if he was going to be around. I was like, where is he? I was shocked he got it off. And then to look where it landed, you're right, I was with you. I couldn't believe it. And I think he's got I'm sure he's upset over it. Him and Andrews with the drops, I think. I don't know which one was honestly worse. The Andrews throw, again, wasn't a great throw by Lamar. I think this is the play. This was a more from the Buffalo early on. But, again, look at the score. 29-22, 6 minutes to go. Bills would score on this fourth down to Curtis Samuel. Tie game. They give up a field goal, and they get the ball back. It's always been Mahomes beating the Bills late. The Bills finally had a chance with the ball in the final possession of the game, and they couldn't get it done.
Yeah, I mean, again, I just don't think that they have the personnel right now to compete with teams that execute at a high level. And that's the one thing. I mean, again, I know I've been on social media and I've seen all the jokes, and I know that a lot of people feel like the refs and the NFL have enabled the Chiefs with some easy victories with the and look, I will tell you, I did not agree with the catch call. I did think that the Josh Allen first down was close. To me, that could have gone either way.
I'm with you. I agree with that. I know it's hard to say.
But the catch, the catch was a little crazy to me. But I will say this,
excuse me.
Regardless of all that, I still think that, to use what Josh Allen said, to be the man, you got to beat the man. And unfortunately, he's come up short. And I think he has the talent, but he doesn't have the pieces around him right now to take that next step.
Again, they just needed 3 points on that final drive. That catch would have put them in field goal range.
Yep.
Again, when you're thinking maybe down 6, would be Josh Allen could do it. They could go down the field and score touchdown, but all you needed was 3 points in that moment. Again, you think Josh Allen's going to be able to get that done for you. But Steve Spagnuolo dialing up the only corner blitz of the entire game on that fourth down. Again, he's one of the best coordinators of all time. And again, saved that the best for last and able to get the job done there. But again, for all you Bills fans,
Look at that.
And it just looks like he didn't see it because he didn't even go to catch it. Like, it hit off the top of his arm. He didn't have a good look at it as just off his form. Like, he didn't see it coming into his arms.
I mean, honestly, I was amazed that Josh Allen even got the throw off.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. When they brought the blitz initially, I couldn't believe it. I thought he was sacked.
And
then
that's
again,
Pacheco running people over.
and this was the game, or the play that won the game, to Samaje Perine on third down. Andy Reid is just one of the best.
That was
and when you
terrible.
combine Andy Reid with Patrick Mahomes, that's quite the combination.
And
of course,
Steve
they're going
Spagnuolo.
back. Yeah, my God. Like you said, you're looking at maybe the best head coach of all time, maybe the best defensive coordinator of all time, with the potentially best quarterback of all time, all on the same team.
It's crazy.
And that's a recipe for potentially 3 straight
With
Super
potentially
Bowls.
one of the better tight ends of all time.
Oh, yeah, it's goes maybe the best. Yeah, wow, we're just going through all the accolades here
Yeah.
for Kansas City. Wow, that team is quite good. But again, for all you Bills fans that are a little upset here, Peyton Manning didn't win his first Super Bowl until he was 30. Again, 3-6 in his first 8 seasons in the playoffs for Peyton Manning.
Where's Josh at now? Is he 29?
7-6, 28 years old, 7-6 in the playoffs in his first 7 seasons. So Manning, it took him a while to overcome Tom Brady.
Right.
Lost over and over again. Finally did it in 2006 when they won the Super Bowl in Miami. And maybe Josh Allen will do the same. As of right now, not looking good for them, 0-4. But again, we've seen this before, so maybe he's able to get over the hump here.
Got a chance.
Down the stretch. Again, the Super Bowl in 2 weeks down in New Orleans at the Superdome. That is going to be a fun one here with the Eagles and the Chiefs. I'm excited for that one. But again, we're not going to get our picks today. We're going to talk a little bit about it. But our pick's going to be on our Super Bowl show the week of the Super Bowl. So again, early thoughts on the Chiefs and the Eagles.
I mean, I think the key piece for the Chiefs is, and they did not look good against James Cook, to be frank.
And they were good against the run, especially at the beginning of the season, but lately.
Yeah, they've dwindled a little bit with that run. And I think that the way the Eagles are running the ball, I think that that's going to be problematic for them. On the flip side, I do not believe that Hurts is going to be able to get as mobile as he's been. I think Bolton is going to he really does well. I mean, being a middle linebacker at his height, I think he's 5'10". He really covers a lot of ground very quickly. It's hard to get him out of space. There was a couple plays against the Bills where they purposely ran on the opposite side to get away from him. He does such a great job of just shortening distances with tackles.
He's good.
I don't know if Hurts is going to be able to get that open in this game, but I do think Barkley, again, like he has been all year, he's going to present problems for them.
So right again, to me, it's been that offensive line with Saquon Barkley, most yards before contact in the NFL. I want to say one of the best in NFL history. That's just how good he's been before he even gets touched with that offensive line for the Eagles. Again, we're not going to have our official picks here, but opening line was Kansas City -2. It opened up after the games last night. It has been bet now to 1.5. So it's Chiefs -1.5 with an over-under of 49.5 for the Super Bowl there coming up on February 9th here at 6:30. So the Eagles may be able to make the Super Bowl for the second time in the last 3 or 4 years. And again, just initially, don't want your official pick now, but where are you leaning here the day after Championship Sunday?
I mean, I think the Eagles got the better team. I just don't know if they have.
Will it matter when you got 15 on the other side?
Yeah, like if and then look, I'm saying this as somebody who's been on the end of this. If he has the ball at the last, man, he's hard. That's all. I mean, but I do think man for man, I think the Eagles have the better roster.
Yeah, and we saw he did it to you guys last year. Mahomes doing it to the Eagles the year before that. Right. So, yeah, we both knew a little something about what number 15 is able to do. That's going to be a hell of a game coming up here in a few weeks. And, of course, we are excited here on the Eagles' Victory Monday as they head back to the Super Bowl. And, again, I want to give props to Matthew. I know it took a lot out of him this year, but he gave the Eagles his love. He respected them, said they were going to make it. And he was right. So, again, I know it wasn't easy for you, Matthew, so I appreciate you being unbiased in this situation.
That's what I got to do, man. I mean, I know I caught a lot of flack last year for the little dust up with the Niners. But, listen, I have always been a firm believer in giving people their credit when they do well. As you remember, when we did the draft show and we did the reaction show, I said the Eagles had the best day of everybody. And look, Quinion Mitchell did a phenomenal job this whole year. I think Cooper DeJean has been a revelation.
Both up for Defensive Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, just an amazing pieces that Howie has done with the draft this year. The long-term picks with Nolan, Nolan had tackling issues. He's done and health, but he's really come out. So, again, everything's getting together. And look, I give the Eagles full credit. I mean, they've been able to revitalize that roster. I will say this. I think a lot of it had to do, and look, I'm still going to throw some little hate. I guess it's going to be considered hate. But I think this is what Nick Sirianni needs in order to look like he's good. Because I think the defensive coordinator and I think the offensive coordinator.
Vic Fangio's been
I think
big turnaround. Big turnaround.
Vic has been amazing. Amazing. Everything that they have done, it doesn't even look like the same defense from last year.
It really doesn't.
It looks amazing what he's been able to do with the adjustments. And this is all with key pieces that we thought were going to do something that haven't even sniffed the field. Like the Jets guy that they got the guy from the Jets. He didn't do anything.
Yeah, Bryce Huff injured.
Yeah, Bryce Huff is been MIA.
And
crazy.
now they lose Nakobe Dean, who was so good all year. So losing him at linebacker, that'll hurt as well. Quinyon Mitchell is banged up, but did look good on Sunday.
Yeah.
Great to see him back healthy again. I mean, I think this is going to be one of the all-time Super Bowls. I know the last time these two teams met, it was a lot of fun in Arizona. If only the field wasn't a total disaster back on that game. Again, nobody could catch their footing in that one. But this one is going to be, I believe, in a Superdome, so we'll be good there and not have to worry about some on-field issues. But speaking of domes, let's talk about a little bit about the Raiders, a team we never talk about here on the desk. They hired Pete Carroll. So Tom Brady finally getting his minority owner here of the Las Vegas Raiders. This is one of his first, things that he's done as a member of the Raiders organization. They go out and they get Pete Carroll, 73 years old, and what a career he had at Seattle. Kind of was let go last year, a little bit out of nowhere. Takes a year off, and now he's back with the Raiders. Your initial thoughts on this hire for Mark Davis and what you're expecting out of the Raiders going forward? Again, a new head coach and Pete Carroll.
I like the hire.
I do too.
I think, if anything, I think he'll be really good at setting something that the Raiders haven't had in a while, which is a culture.
Oh, they need that.
Yeah, and getting them on the ground floor of that and building that up. So even if he doesn't stay there long term, I think he can do a lot of the heavy lifting to get the next coach ready. I do think it would behoove them to have a coach in waiting, kind of, because, I mean, look, Pete's 78.
He's up there. Exactly. He is
yeah,
up there.
I don't know how old
70
he is.
Something.
Yeah, I mean, he's a little long in the tooth, and look, coaching is a young man's game for the most part. So I mean, we'll see, or at least a middle-aged man's game.
He's 73. Yep.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know how long he'll stay, with the Raiders, but I do think he loves coaching. I mean, there was rumblings that he didn't want to step down from Seattle.
Yeah.
He was kind of like pushed to step down. So, I mean, all that. I think he was the right choice.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think, again, he was phenomenal in Seattle. As soon as the day he won at USC, he won at Seattle, and now I think he's got a chance to win here with the Raiders. They're going to need a quarterback. They're picking at number 6 this year. We'll see how that works out. Some of the quarterbacks going to be the top 3 or 4 picks. Yeah. I don't know if they'll get one. And again, we'll have a whole thing about the draft going forward. Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders, again, kind of in the middle in terms of grade-wise of the first round, but going to be boosted up just because everybody needs a quarterback. So they're going to go in the top 5 to 7 picks.
That's a fact.
So we're going to see what happens there. But Raiders, they need one. We'll see if they get one. But I do like the hire. I think Brady with a good decision there, helping out the Davises. I think Pete Carroll, as you mentioned, culture's big. Something the Raiders haven't had since Rich Gannon, I think, in 2000. John Gruden.
Correct.
Who knows? But, hopefully they can get back on track over there in the AFC West. Tough division when you got the Chiefs, Broncos, and company over there, the Chargers. A lot of good quarterbacks in that division, so they're going to have to find one themselves. Well, here we are on a Eagles victory Monday. Again, Eagles and the Chiefs, some coaching carousel stuff. We talked about that. And again, just quickly to change up sports, we were talking before the show, maybe can we talk anything about the NBA, stuff like that. And we kind of just looked at each other and said, not really. There's really not much, to say going on in the NBA. I wanted to ask you, what have you been up to here? I know you're doing all kinds of your stuff behind the scenes.
Yeah.
But how's the NBA season been for you? Again, to this point, Sixers haven't been really able to get back on track. The Paul George thing not looking fantastic right now. Hopefully they'll get going. Embiid missing some games. He'll be back. Again, looks like the Wells Fargo Center a little bit less populated than we've seen it in certain years. But just your thoughts on the NBA. What have you seen there from the Sixers and just overall the league here?
I mean, overall, look, it's been a weird year. I mean, I think you have some really surprising teams. Obviously the Cavs have been playing
what is going on?
Amazing.
Cleveland. I think that's crazy. I mean, it's crazy how good
they're playing so good. And I really like what they got going on there. I think Darius Garland's turning the book.
Man,
I mean, he's amazing.
Mitch, I mean, do you think are they now like a team that could win the East?
No.
See, and that's there's always that team every year, right? The Thunder last year were so good in the Western Conference, and we kind of play like, can they win the West? And we never really felt like they could. So that's kind of the same feeling you're getting from Cleveland.
Yeah, I think it's Boston's to lose.
Man,
I mean, they're just they have so much talent, and they can go deep into their bench. I just don't think anybody right now has that on the East.
You think the Knicks have any chance here down the stretch? Knicks have been fantastic. You look at Boston, 32-14, 30-16 are the New York Knicks. The Cat edition has been good. I know I questioned it a little bit when it happened, but it was a good move. Brunson's been great. Towns has been great. and they've been fantastic this year. Is that a team? And again, we've got a long way to go until we get to the playoffs. So many things can change, by April and May and June. But your thoughts on the New York Knicks? I mean, after that acquisition, they've really, I think, it's paid off so far.
I mean, it's paid off, but it's still Karl-Anthony Towns to me.
Playoffs, right? We're talking.
Karl-Anthony Towns has all the talent in the world. I think he's been one of he's one of the most skilled big men in the league for sure.
Maybe of all time.
The consistency, the ability to apply himself defensively on every play, playoffs, all that comes into the evaluation of him. So yeah, I give him full credit for what he's done this year. He looks brand new, looks invigorated.
Yeah.
But I mean, some of that also has to do with the fact that he feels like he's been pushed out of Minnesota, which I think he really liked the personnel that they had there with Anthony Edwards and everything. And they've taken a step back too as well.
Yeah, they have.
They're not what people thought they were going to be.
They're one of the hot tickets, coming in the season, right? Anthony Edwards, one of the favorites to win MVP.
Right.
They're one of the favorites to finish up, near the Western Conference. And
Yep.
But even after that trade, right? They thought. I mean, their reasoning, I think, behind the trade was they thought Naz Reid would be able to step up and take over for Towns and really fill in for what he's been able to do. Not really been the case, right? 24-21. When this deal happened, where were you on the Timberwolves-Knicks deal? Like, what was your initial thoughts when it happened? Did you think – because Minnesota seems like they're in their prime window, right? Like, they made a run last year. Anthony Edwards, one of the faces of the league potentially coming in. Towns, one of the best players in the league. And then they trade him. I just want to know what you thought their methodology was there and kind of what you thought initially when you saw this happen.
I didn't like the trade at all. And the reason why I didn't like it is, the getting rid of him and getting Randall.
Yeah. Yes.
To me, Randall
I just didn't really get it that way.
To me, Randall, and respectfully, I mean, he's just a gunner. He's a guy that he'll go out there, shoot 23s in one game and hit 3 and think he's done something. I mean, that's who Julius Randle is. And look, when he's on, he's amazing. When he's off, he's off. And that's kind of the problem with Randle. He doesn't give a lot of effort on the defensive side. To me, it was an indication that they really believe in the Frenchman, Gobert. Which I gotta be honest with you, I'm not a Rudy guy. I think he's great when paired with certain situations. I think he's overrated as a defender. I think he's overrated as a player. So for me, when the trade happened, I said, wow, they must really be invested in it. Rudy Gobert is going to be their guy in the center. And look, he has limitations. He thinks he's a 20-point scorer. That's the problem with Rudy.
Well, they gave up to get him like he was a 20-point scorer.
It was crazy. I mean, they gave up, I want to say five first-round picks.
I think it was 5 first-round picks.
Yeah, and he's just not that guy, respectfully. I don't think he's that guy. And look, they're also having problems with Anthony Edwards in that offense.
Yeah.
They
struggle
in
days. So I mean, that's one of the bigger surprises, right? Coming in terms of success to non-success. And another team, on the flip side of that, is a few of them that I want to talk about is Houston. 30-14, Ime Udoka really transformed what they've got going on there to get Van Vliet last year in free agency, and they've really put something together down there in Houston. And they look at the Clippers at 26-19. They lose Paul George. Norman Powell's been unbelievable this year for LA.
Yep.
And they're sitting there in the playoff mix looking at a 6 seed. Those are a few teams that have kind of come out of nowhere. Your thoughts on Houston and LA? And then you look at Memphis, 31-15. They're right in the mix, obviously losing Ja last year. Nobody really thought anything about it. They get him back, and they're right in the top 5 mix.
Yeah, Houston is got an embarrassment of riches, really. When you look at their roster, a lot of young guys. They're going to have to make some choices. I think Sengun is probably their best player.
Their best or most valuable player.
I think Jalen Green's taken a step forward this year.
Yeah,
I still think he's wildly inconsistent.
He's a gunslinger. I think 43% from the floor.
Fred VanVleet's been a calming presence in there. And really, I'm impressed with the Thompson kid. I mean, he's played really good defense, kind of like a jack of all trades. Cam Whitmore still struggling to get minutes there.
Do you
which
think
I'm
he'll
surprised.
Is he part of their long-term plans, you think, in Houston? I know he kind of –
I think they're still trying to figure it out.
There was a report like that maybe he wanted out earlier in the year already. I know it's been 1 year, and I hate to hear that kind of stuff after just a year, et cetera. But, he looked good last year.
I mean, they still got to figure out what they're doing with Jabari Smith.
And that was my next question for you. As an evaluator, you've looked at his tape while he was Auburn, even since he's been in the NBA. I mean, up until about 30 minutes before the draft, he was the number 1 pick. He thought he was going number 1. That was the talk. I know all of us were Paolo fans up here, and that's how it went. But 30 minutes before, he was the number 1 pick. He ended up falling, I believe, to 3 in that draft to Houston, averaging 12 points a game. Obviously, the defense has been there for him. He's long. Your thoughts on Jabari Smith as a player now, as we're getting now a nice sample size. Is he what we think he is, or is he what we're seeing?
I mean, he's
Does he have more room? I mean, obviously he's been in the league for 3 or 4 years, but does he have more room to grow? I mean,
He has more room to grow, but
is he that top guy that we thought?
But
top
no,
2
he's
player?
not the top guy. I mean, the ceiling, I think, was viewed as being higher.
Like almost, I mean, when he was coming out, I mean, there was a lot of talk about Jabari.
Oh yeah, the potential was supposed to be
Yeah.
sky high. We just don't see it. I mean, he looks like to me he's going to be a guy that is a catch and shoot 3D guy kind of guy. I don't think he's the guy that does really good shot creation, which is what Paolo's.
Exactly. Paolo can do it all, right?
Paolo can do it
Run
all.
the offense, yeah.
Yeah, and that's the problem with Jabari. So and they took a guy that I wasn't a big fan of, Reed Shepard, who.
We had that big discussion, right? I mean, at number 3 overall, the freshman out of Kentucky.
Yeah.
And then, we thought that was too early for the young man. But then the summer league rolled around, and this man was on. I mean, it was crazy. He was putting up 20 points a game in Las Vegas.
But it was summer
and
league.
Then exactly, and that's what you said, right? You said you said, "Hey, it's summer league. I've seen this happen before."
Right. Yeah.
And then you look at the regular season, and he was really, can't say come back to earth because he never really wasn't, a part of it. 3 points. Averaging just 11 minutes a game. You're right. If they use that pick maybe on somebody else there, maybe they're looking a little better this year. But we'll see.
So.
Young guy over there in Reed Shepard.
Yep.
Thoughts quickly on the Suns and the Clippers, though. I want to talk about the Clippers and Norman Powell. James Harden looks good this year. They lose Paul George. Not a lot of expectations coming in. They were projected as a team to not make the playoffs. And then Phoenix, 23-21. Brad Beal supposedly on the trade block. He's got that no trade clause. So kind of weird there in Phoenix. Your thoughts on what the Suns have been able to do the last couple of years since forming that big 3? Not a lot to really show for it. They did have that trade, if you remember, a week or two ago where they traded their 2031 first-round pick for 3 lesser first-round picks. That crazy swap that they did. Thoughts on Phoenix and LA? I really want to hear what you have to say about the Suns.
Well, I mean, Harden has really stepped up in this last couple games. I mean, this is what Harden does. He'll give you these spotlight times.
Until he gets to the playoffs, right?
Yeah, where you remember like, oh, this was Harden, and then he comes back down to earth. I mean, he's a little bit of an older player. Doesn't have the ability to explode past guys like he used to. He never really was an uber athletic guy off the dribble. So I mean, everything he gets basically now is off movement. Still knows how to pass, still knows how to create shots for others. So I think that's why they're doing really well. Amir Coffey has done great.
Yeah, Amir Coffey.
Really great pickup for them. Unfortunately, our guy Bones is still buried on that depth chart.
Yeah, I mean, there's something going. I mean, I just love to see him somewhere else at this point. But
I mean, it's a shame. I think he can, but it's not just him too. Also, Trey Mann was another guy that I think is being buried on that bench. So they've got some young guys, but I think the problem is they got vets that really know how to play that are blocking those guys from getting minutes. And then you also have Kawhi who's starting to reemerge. I mean, hopefully he can be healthy somewhat. I mean, I don't know.
What a crazy that last couple of years.
It's been crazy for him.
I mean, since he won that championship in Toronto, I mean, he was on top of the world.
Right.
After that, you had people calling saying that he was better than Kobe because of the postseason runs he had in San Antonio and Toronto. I mean, he's been hard to find that success there since that moment. But what a run he did have with Toronto back a few years ago. Sacramento, they did fire Mike Brown a few weeks ago. Golden State continues to struggle.
Right.
Don't know how much we'll see out of Stephen Curry, going forward. The Pelicans, 12-34. Zion looking to get back. They say he's in the best shape of his life now.
Yeah, okay.
Heard that before, but they continue to struggle.
But let's get on the Suns real quick. I mean, the problem with the Suns is, and this is the problem I've always had with Durant as a player. And look, he's one of the best small forwards of all time. I have him in the top, top 3.
I agree.
I think he's amazing. But this has always been kind of the issue, is that when he does get the team and it's his turn to be that guy, sometimes he struggled in those setups. So right now you have Booker, who to me is not really what the numbers indicate. I mean, if you look at Booker's numbers, you would think he's on the Kobe Bryant level, and he's not that guy. He's a guy that's a on fire shooter. He can get hot, and he has the ability to reel off some big points in some short period of time. But he's a guy that I think needs a star player to lead him. He's a good secondary guy. And then Beal, to me, has always been a low efficiency, high volume shooter. When he doesn't get those shots up, he pouts a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing that. I mean, who would have thought 2 years ago to make this deal? And I was a big Bradley Beal guy. It hasn't worked out the way I thought it would. Already on the trade block, assuming that he might want to be traded already. Formed that big 3 2 years ago, and now you're looking at it right now, and he may want out. That's how you know it might be a disaster over there with the Suns.
It was just a horrible setup. I mean, Bradley Beal, the talk was he was going to run point.
Yeah, and then let me ask you, I mean, what is going on? We sat here that day and we talked about it. How can you know, they don't have anybody that is a point guard. Devin Booker and Bradley Beal were going to take turns with the point guard. Do you think that's a lot of part of the issue now? They still don't have a point guard, really.
Yeah,
I mean, they went out and got Tyus Jones to play there, but they still don't really have, you know, that guy. And we thought that was an issue when they made the trade for the big three. I mean, when you have a roster of Durant, Booker, and Beal, you got to be at least a couple, 23 and 20. You got to be a little bit better than that, in my opinion, right? I mean, but like you said, it's the NBA on paper is not what you're going to get on the floor.
Yeah, well, it's the problem with the new era, of basketball, where people just say, "Oh, we just have guards. Everybody can play shooting guard. Everybody can play point guard." And the problem is,
look at the Warriors.
No one needs a point guard till you need a point guard. No one needs a big man until you need a big man. So that's the problem. And what we're seeing right now is, look, sometimes you need somebody who's setting up plays, setting up guys' shots, getting guys in rhythm, getting guys to get hit in the spots that they like to make shots, getting guys the offense going, setting the tone defensively, controlling tempo. These are things that you need sometimes with certain teams. And when you don't get that and you have guys that are just programmed to be aggressive scorers all the time, which is what I think Durant's default is. I think Booker's default is that. I know Booker has a couple passes every once in a while, but he's primarily programmed to catch and shoot and pull up.
Right? You do two guard.
Right. Yeah, and the same thing with Beal. I just think when we have these team chemistry issues, that's what you can have. It's not always about getting the best players. It's about sometimes getting the best fits.
Absolutely.
And I just don't think Beal's a great fit for that situation.
Yeah, I think he said that back when they made the trade again. I thought they'd be a little bit better off. Not this time. Suns have really been struggling. Matt Ishbia, since buying the team, really unloaded all of their resources. And I mean, and they were towards the back end of the playoffs, a 7 or 8 seed last year. And now looking at something similar here. It has not been a good run here for the Phoenix Suns. Well, we're almost wrapping up here on an Eagles Victory Monday for the 5th time I've said that today, Matthew. But anything else that you want to hit here tonight? We talked about the NBA, the Super Bowl in 2 weeks. Eagles Chiefs, that's going to be a fun one. And then again, after that, we turn our attention to draft season for football, and then right back to the NBA. Playoffs going to start, late March, early April. What have you been up to here as of late? How are those rankings and everything going for you?
I'm in the point of evaluation right now, just looking at everybody, making my list, checking it twice, gonna find out who can play or who can't, and then just continue to work on my book, just other things I'm working on. But I mean, what I've been really intrigued with, just as just a final part of this whole deal, is I'm really interested to see what the Titans do with the number 1 pick.
Oh man,
I mean, they have a really crazy choice, which is, do you take the best talent, which I would say was Travis Hunter?
I agree with you.
Or do you take what you need, which is a quarterback? That is the problem, and that is a problem I have not seen that many times in draft history.
Right, and like I just talked about, right? Like if you were doing this on last year's draft, Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders, in grade-wise, right, they'd be kind of behind J.J. McCarthy. Maybe not for you and me, but last year they would have been that far back in the ranking. So they're going to be pole vaulted up here in the top 5 or 7 picks, and one of those teams is going to take those guys. I have to go back. I'm still watching tape and et cetera like that, so I want to see more of Shedeur and Cam Ward.
Right.
But it's going to be – I personally, like you said, I'd take Travis Hunter. I know it's tough. I think he is just so good on both sides of the ball. Like Champ Bailey, like we talked about years ago, he is that good of a player. And you heard the new GM for the Titans, kind of say, we're going to take the generational talent. For me personally, Matthew, my top 2 players is number 1, Travis Hunter, and number 2 is Abdul Carter, the pass rusher from Penn State. I think he is unbelievable. So I think any of those 2, if I'm the Titans, I take any of those 2 guys. Yeah. But it is a quarterback-driven league. And
it is.
If you can't win without a quarterback, and we saw Levis not going to be the answer after his last 2 years, at least so far. I know maybe they still are kind of thinking over. I think me and you are pretty sure he's not the answer in Tennessee. So, again, they could take Cam Ward, who is the highest-ranked, cumulative around the draft boards, number 1 quarterback right now. If I'm them, I don't know if I would do it. But like I said, it's an offensive league. We were talking about this before the show. The defense is put in a position to fail with the penalties, everything else. It's all tailored towards the offense. We're going to have to wait and find out. Coach Callahan, really an offensive guy, came over from Cincinnati with Joe Burrow. So he wants a quarterback, I'm sure. But is this the draft, to do it? That's going to be fun. I personally think I'd take Travis Hunter.
Yeah, I would too, but I know this is the problem.
It is.
And I'm
maybe
really.
Do you trade back if you're Tennessee to 3 or 4 or 4 or 5, get something else, and then still able to get your quarterback there?
I would just go in later in the first. I would take who you got taking the first pick and then go back.
I'm a big Jackson Dart guy from Ole Miss. I really like Jackson Dart. He was not one of those guys that was listed in the first round. I think by the time we sit here in April, I think he's going to be a back-end first-round pick. I was talking a little about him today. I think he's been fantastic. He's down the Senior Bowl right now in Mobile, getting his work in there. So I'm a big Jackson Dart guy. I think maybe towards the end of the first round, I think somebody's going to take a flyer on Jackson Dart. So
don't forget Milroy.
Yeah, and Jalen Milroy there from Alabama. Yeah. That's going to be – I would have loved to see him come back to school. I thought he should went back to Alabama.
Should definitely go
same
back.
thing I said about Justin Fields when he came out of Ohio State. I wrote an article about that. I think those guys should go back a year. I think he should go back another year. I think that would really benefit him. But, hey, he's going to come out. He likes his chances, and we'll see. I wouldn't take him in the first round, but there's going to be a team I think potentially maybe that looks at him.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, it's crazy. It's going to be an interesting draft. I mean, I think, again, with the way that the NFL has set up offense and the way that teams are so hard programmed to get quarterbacks, I think you're going to see guys, again, go in positions that they wouldn't have gone 10, 15 years ago.
That's right. I mean, we saw it was – trying to think of the draft it was a few years ago where all those guys were booted up, and it was – if you think we sat here again 3 years ago with Kenny Pickett and Malik Willis, right? Mm-hmm. They were guys that didn't have first-round grades. Kenny Pickett went in 16th overall. He was taken in the first round, did not live up to his first-round grade. And Malik Willis slipped, but it's starting to look a little bit better now. It wasn't a first-round pick, but that's kind of that's what can happen when you have not a lot of big quarterback class and teams that need quarterbacks. Those guys are going to get pushed up. So we'll see. Maybe they can live up to the hype. Maybe they weren't. But now we're going to have Dennis's question of the week, bringing it back here. I know Dennis has been waiting to display this one for us. So, Dennis, what do you got as your question of the week? Oh, this is a good one. It's got Matthew Mowerly, but all over. Can the NBA fix the three-point shooting problem? Well, Matthew, it seems like teams are taking about 53s a game. I mean, way up from what we saw, back in the 90s, early 2000s, whatever you want to call it. Adam Silver has come out. He has said that they will fix this problem. First off, do you think this has a lot to do with the ratings going down that we've been hearing about a lot recently? And how would you propose we fix it?
I mean, I just think at this point you got to just take away corner threes. I think you got to extend the line. I think you got to wipe out them corner threes, which I think enables more post play, more play in the mid range. I mean, I think the biggest problem with the NBA is analytics. The analytic guys will tell you 3 means more than 2, and because of that, you have teams that are hard programmed to be excessive with their 3-point hunts.
Mike D'Antoni and the Rockets. What do you think about that team? Years ago, that kind of started that whole thing.
Yeah, and again, this is the problem that the NBA has because you're dealing with a whole entire generation of fans that did not grow up watching this. This is not what we're used to or accustomed to see. Americans, and I would say even worldwide, they're more programmed to see athleticism, transition basketball, where guys are making exciting plays. This excessive hunting of threes, it isn't appealing to watch. I mean, it isn't. It's terrible. I think the only way they can fix it is to move the line back, take out the corner threes, which I know is going to seem blasphemous to some people, but I honestly think that's the only way you can fix it at this point. You almost have to make teams start to understand that you got to do more than just hunt for threes. You got to start pulling out the playbook and doing other things. And I think that's the bigger problem. You got a league right now that has 30 teams that all play the exact same way, which is the height of insanity.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right.
They all play the same way. And when the NBA and people have asked me like, when did this start to really take place? And it was like, well, the last couple of years. Because when we watched the Golden State Warriors play against Cleveland, it was 2 different games. It was Golden State hunting for threes, which people leave out, getting really good at converting close to the basket layups and doing those close to the basket shots, and then doing threes. And then you had the shot creation of LeBron James, and then kicking out to shooters, and then you had Kyrie Irving with his amazing one-on-one abilities. It was 2 different styles, and it was so great to see.
Oh, that was a fun final.
It was a fun time, fun finals. And now what we see is everybody plays the same. Everybody literally doesn't do anything different, despite having totally different personnel, which I think is insane to me.
Yeah, I mean, you think about those Spurs team that won so many championships. I mean, it's just changed the league so much from when you had the Heat versus the Spurs in 2013, 2014 to now. I mean, you think about those Spurs teams, they could hit the three, but how many threes were they taking, in those finals? Danny Green would, hit something exciting like that. But, I mean, it's changed. It's changed a lot, and I'm with you. I think maybe if you extend the line, the corner threes is an interesting perspective there. I like that. So we'll see. Adam Silver said they're going to fix it. So we trust him?
I don't believe Adam Silver. I think
who do you like more, Adam Silver or Roger Goodell, as commissioner of sports?
I think, and this is going to sound horrible to say, I think I like Roger more.
Wow,
because I think I tell you why. I think the problem with Adam Silver at times is he wants to be everybody's best friend.
And that's been from the start.
Yeah, I think sometimes you can't be everybody's best friend. Sometimes you have to draw a line in the sand and you have to say, like, look, this is what we need to do for the league, not just for the player or a group of players, but for the league. And, I've said this before, and I took a little bit of flack for it, but that's fine. I challenge anybody to tell me differently. I don't think David Stern would have allowed Bronny James to be drafted. And if he was the commissioner, I think he would have said absolutely not. Just the way that they set the deck, the way that they told teams.
Other teams not to take him.
Not to take him. The way
On
that
the clock, they told teams not to take him.
The way that – and look, some people have said, like, well, this is player empowerment. Isn't it beautiful? Player empowerment is being able to sign with whatever team you want to sign with. Player empowerment is saying, if I want to sit out and be fined because I want a better contract, that's player empowerment. That's not what happened. What happened was you had a superstar who basically strong-armed 29 other teams and said, don't take my son because he ain't going. Yeah,
and the Warriors are one of those teams, right? Bob Myers talked about it. They were going to take him in the second round before they got the phone call.
Right. So that, to me, is not the same thing. I think that's strong-arming. I don't think that's player empowerment.
And again, thoughts maybe before we wrap up here. NBA talking a lot about the international thing as well. That's been a talk around Silver for years. They're thinking even about having a team in Paris. So they got to figure out the travel, stuff like that. But they're eyeing another franchise overseas.
Again,
you talk about those tournaments. And now you got Roger Goodell saying the same thing, right? They want to go overseas, where they're going to Germany, Brazil, somewhere new they announced for next year that I can't have off the top of my head. Your thoughts on the international aspect of those two leagues? And again, are you for it? I mean, it's always great to grow the game. I'm not one to try to get these teams go out on a weekly basis. The Jags fly to London and play in a week and then go somewhere else, Germany a few weeks later. I think a lot of it should be here, in the United States, and same thing with the NBA. Your thoughts on the international expansion?
I mean, I think it's a situation of trying too hard. I mean, at the end of the day, look, if you want to grow the game, I'm all for it. But at the end of the day, this is why I think the NBA has to fix their problem, unlike the NFL. I think the NFL has a sport that overseas market will like and enjoy. I think the problem with the NBA is they don't play like that over in Europe.
It's different, right?
Totally different.
Yep. And again, that's just going to be what we see. As we now have breaking news in here as well. I do want to get your thoughts on this one. Jimmy Butler suspended indefinitely today. He just walked off the court at shoot-around. This has now been ongoing for about 2 or 3 weeks. I mean, the Pat Riley, Jimmy Butler, two alphas, going at it in that Heat organization. He wants out. I don't know where he'll end up. Your thoughts on Jimmy Butler, again, who has led Miami to a few finals appearances, conference finals here in the last 3 or 4 years. He's been great for that organization, and now it seems like he wants out. I mean, we've seen Jimmy go out from a bunch of different places over his career.
Right.
Your thoughts on how this thing has unfolded? Are you team Jimmy or are you team Pat Riley?
I'm team
Eric Spoelstra?
Yeah, I'm team Eric Spoelstra. I mean, at the end of the day, look, I respect what Jimmy Butler's trying to do. I don't think he has a clear, concise understanding of where he's at in the market. He's 35 years old. He'll turn 36 in September. You want a contract that is paying you – and look, again, I'm going to say this and it's going to sound harsh, but I'm not trying to be harsh. Jimmy Butler has never been an elite talent guy. He's been a guy that's very good. He's been a guy that has leadership skills, other things that are intangibles. But in terms of, like we just talked about Booker in Phoenix, Booker in Phoenix has more talent than him.
Yeah.
I would say Bradley Beal has more talent than Jimmy Butler. Again, respectfully.
Yeah.
What Butler has shined is he shined from being a guy that can create for a franchise, leadership, doing things to push his team forward. But dude, you're not at that level no more, man. You're just a guy who right now you're in the sunset of your career. Probably the next team you go to will probably be your last team. And I just think he needs to understand that. And Pat Riley, he's the reason why LeBron left.
Yeah.
You know, LeBron won't say that. He won't admit it, but that's pretty much what everybody said. He's the reason why LeBron left.
Yeah,
So,
and we'll never, maybe never know. Maybe we will, but going to be, again, interesting NBA season. It's already had a lot of, eventful stuff going on, but
it's a fact.
a lot of left stuff still to play. Quickly, before we head out, we
Yep.
got to talk about the Sixers. Obviously, still, it seemed, last time we were here 2 or 3 weeks ago, they had won 7 out of 8 or 9. Really got going, and now, back to what we kind of seen to the beginning of the year. Paul George banged up, Embiid missing 1 of every 2 games, even more. Maxi's been banged up. Paul George is actually stuck in his car during the celebration last night on Broad Street. That guy, he was all collapsed in. Just your thoughts on the Sixers. Like, is this a playoff team? If they get everybody back towards the tail end of the regular season, can they make a run to the 7 or 8 spot or a play-in team and maybe make a run in the playoffs? Or is this season kind of trending in the way that it's going to be a lost season? What are we doing?
I don't think they have enough to get a playoff team. I think they have a chance to definitely improve, but when your best player is literally playing 1 every other night, it just is impossible to gain traction because you literally are missing the best piece of your team every other game. So, again, and again, I've said this about Embiid since the beginning.
Yep.
If he wants to, and he's taken some hits, and there's been things said about his family that I don't agree with.
Yeah, we agree. Yep, absolutely.
But at the end of the day, he's only played 13 games this year.
Man.
To put it in context, Maxi's played 37.
Yeah.
Paul George, who's been banged up, has played 30 games. So when you're playing 13 games and that's your best player, what you're essentially telling people is, I'm not here full time. And if I show up, great. If I don't, you got to win without me.
But why is that? Like, why is this year he taking this approach? And again, before the season, they talked about he's not going to do back-to-backs.
Yeah.
And initially, that caused a lot of uproar, and I totally understand that. But I'm one of the mindset was, well, every year going into the playoffs, he's been hurt. So if he can give us, 40 to 45 games, whatever, what have you, for the regular season, as long as he gets to the, as long as the Sixers are in an okay position, if they can do it without him, if he's allowed to rest, if they're having success, and then you can bring him back healthy for the playoffs. But they haven't had success at the start of the season. As soon as he stopped playing, they were getting just beat up. So that you can't adapt to that and have Embiid's not going to play back-to-backs, but we're still going to have an under 10 games under 500 record. That's just not what you can do. Like, if you think you're able to manage and get some victories or able to stay in the mix without him, then yeah, that's a good game plan. But if not, I don't understand it. I just don't understand what his game plan was coming into the season. I guess, like me, maybe they thought they'd be able to have success without him and stay in the mix. Mm-hmm. But for him to keep this going now, and maybe he's just really hurt, but for him to keep this going right now with how bad that they have been, don't you think it would be up to him to say, hey, I'm going to start playing a lot more now. We got to make the playoffs. We got to do something else. What is going? I just don't understand what's going on in Philadelphia.
Honestly, and I say this as somebody who believes that Embiid, when fully motivated, when fully healthy, is the best center in the league.
I agree.
What I think has happened is his heart's not in the game.
But that's what it seems like, and that you can't have that. I don't think.
No, you can't have that. And he's frustrated Maxey. He's frustrated other guys on that team. I think they're trying to be good teammates and try to help him through this. And look, he could have some personal issues that I don't know enough about.
Yeah, exactly, maybe.
And I want to be respectful of that. But at the end of the day, if this is going to be what his career is going to be moving forward, it's never going to work in Philly.
No.
It's just never going to work in Philly.
And maybe even anywhere else.
No, but it's definitely not going to work in Philly.
Agreed.
This is a league. This is a team, and me being a partial Sixers fan, this is a team where we like hard-nosed players. We like guys that gut it out. You're telling me that this isn't who you are, fine, but I don't know how you're going to be able to live when guys like Charles Barkley, Allen Iverson, Moses, those guys set the foundation, Dr. J, and you're out here lollygagging. I don't know, man. I see an uninspired player.
Yeah, I do. I agree with you 100%. And, you always hear Charles Barkley talk about, hey, I had Moses to tell me, that got me really going in my NBA career. Nobody's been able to really do that for Joel Embiid, right? He's never had that leader or a guy that can take him under his wing. And I think you're right. I think he's fallen off the path here in the NBA. I think the passion, again, just the way he's carried himself for the Sixers year, I don't think I anticipated that. I don't think I saw it coming. Like when we had the report break out that Maxey called him out for missing meetings and being like, I didn't know that was going on.
Right.
And I mean, I thought that was very surprising. I didn't think he was that kind of guy. Right. But it's come out now that maybe he is. And again, we're all big Embiid fans here, but something has got to give. Something has to fix on that end if the Sixers want to have success. Again, as soon as they figured out they weren't winning games, if I'm him, you got to get back in the mix. You got to put your team in a position to make the playoffs. It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me for him to still be sitting out games and doing all this. Again, it seems like a lost season. I hope I'm wrong. And if it is, what are your thoughts coming into next year? If he does this all year long, they don't make the playoffs, they have a shitty record. What's going on next year when he comes back? Are we expecting the same thing again, or is he not even going to be a Sixer? I know there's a lot of things to throw out there, but there are a lot of variables.
I'm trading him because I've already seen this play out before. It's called Andrew Bynum.
Oh my God, dancing with the Bulls and stuff.
Yeah, I'm trading him. If this goes on to next year, I'm trading him. He's got to go, man. Got to go. I got to get something while there's still value on the board with him. I mean, once teams find out this is what he's going to be for the rest of his career, you lose more than half the value.
Yeah. And again, maybe you're another team that, because it always goes, right, oh, we can fix him. Like, we bring him here, it's going to be different when he's here. Well, no, maybe it will be, maybe it won't. But again, the Sixers have been, giving a lot to him over the years.
I just got to say one thing, because I had a buddy of mine who, and not just a buddy, it's somebody who, me and him became at odds about this thing. I ask now, how about Ben Simmons? Because I said to people, this guy is toast. He's done. And for years, people, nah, he's going to turn the corner. Nah, he's going to change. Nah, he's going to be different. You don't understand his value. Well, how about now? Because
what a downfall that is.
Yeah. I mean, people talk about Derek Coleman's decline from being tier 1 to,
and they're kind of similar, players in a way.
At least Derek Coleman had a couple years where he was like one of the top 5 guys in the league. This guy, it's done, bro. It's done.
And he came out earlier this week saying, hey, the Sixers fans are the best in the world. I never appreciated them while I was there. Kind of seems like he's trying to walk back a little bit and find his way, somewhere else. But again, I know
his own home country don't want him. What does that tell you?
And again, not as relevant, but I do, want to mention it. I mean, have we seen a downfall like that? He was all defensive team member that year. The year that they lost to the Hawks and he passed up the dunk that cost him, a trip to the conference finals. I mean, I've never seen. I mean. Again, it has to do a lot with his confidence and maybe mental, but I've never seen a player be, a borderline or an all-star. Excuse me, he was an all-star.
Yeah, it was an all-star.
Was an all-star defensive player of the year candidate and all defensive team guy. I mean, like I said, was accolades across the board to now just not even being playing is just kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's wild. You'd have to. Everybody that I could name is like either got an injury or maybe something happened to him off the court. I don't know anybody who like just one day just woke up and just said, I'm just not going to play basketball like I used to.
That is crazy. And again, shout out, though, while we're here, Isaiah Thomas back in the G League again this year. Had 33-point average, 33 a game in the G League last year before the call-up to Phoenix. So shout out to Isaiah, big Isaiah Thomas guy. Maybe he can find his footing again. But he's someone that's always trying to get right back in there. He's always in the G League trying to find his way back on a roster.
Yeah.
What a run he had with Boston, for the last couple of years.
And the G League is I always told people, because people were talking about Bronny James, he's done well, and he has done well in the G League so far.
Better than I thought he would have done so far.
But I always tell people, and we were front row witnesses to it. We saw DJ Stewart come down here and drop 38 on the Blue Coats. Like it's hard for these short guards to get that call up, man. I mean, despite doing work, man,
especially at his age too.
Yeah, it's still hard, man. It's still hard. I mean, DJ Stewart is amazing talent, and yet he's still languishing in the G League. It's just tough.
Man. It is, no doubt about that. And again, shout out to the Blue Coats. Hopefully they continue their season well. Maybe we'll be back at the field house in a couple months. But
would love to.
Again, shout out Mac McClung, who's also just entered the dunk contest, former Blue Coat. So he'll be back there in the dunk contest as well. But again, and before we close out, I know I keep adding on here, but I mean, how big have you been into All-Star Weekend here? No, it's not coming up yet, but a three-point shooting dunk contest, to me, it was something I just couldn't wait for, growing up, and even years ago when I was in college, even after college, I couldn't wait for the week, Friday, Saturday night, All-Star Weekend. Now I really don't care that much about it. Is that me, or is that just how it's going?
No, that's how it is.
And why is that, you think?
Because
who they got doing the events?
Yeah.
I mean, last year, if you would have asked just a common, NBA fan, just a general, he would, I don't think, have known anybody in the dunk contest.
Well, that's just it. When we were growing up, the dunk contest had stars. You had Dr. J, you had Michael, you had Dominique, you had Julius Erving. Now you got guys now, it's like I don't know who
G
this
League
guy
guys.
is.
You got G League guys.
This guy's not playing for the Orlando Magic. He's playing for the Oscala Magic. Like, what is going on here, bro?
And again, just to piggyback off of that, do you blame LeBron James for a little bit of that? Early in his career,
Yeah, for
I
sure.
agree. I mean, why not? Like you said, he could have revitalized that
Yeah.
at any point, and he just never did it.
Yeah, I mean, and what's sad about the dunk contest, we reached the pinnacle with Aaron Gordon
Levine, yeah.
and Zach LaVine.
Whew.
And that was it.
And
And
it fell right off after they
fell
started.
right off. And honestly, I give big respect to those guys. They set the bar so high. I don't know if I think people are scared. I really do.
It's ruined the dunk contest. They
Man,
ruined the dunk
just
contest.
get Team Flight Brothers in there, and then just. I mean,
Yeah,
if we're bringing in G-Line guys, let's just bring some YouTube guys.
That's
in.
right. There you go.
Bring the Team Flight Brothers in the NBA Slam Dunk contest. I mean, this is come on, man.
Well, that's going to close us out here on a Monday evening. Nick Alessandrini and Matthew Maurer, Dennis behind the glass. Eagles and the Chiefs, a rematch of the Super Bowl a few years ago down at the Super Bowl here, February 9th at the Superdome. Eagles victory Monday. It's been a fun one. So, Matt, you were right there with the Chiefs and the Eagles. Now, again, we have to get our official predictions, but I believe that was your prediction at the beginning of the season was Chiefs and Eagles. And how about that? Hit it on the head. We'll get your official pick, mine as well as Dennis, next week. But again, fantastic show today. Closing words, Matthew.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, I think the problem with college football is it's found itself in a salary cap crunch. I was talking to a gentleman about this because to me, college sports as a whole is at a crisis because you have California, Stanford, and the ACC. You have Oregon in the Big Ten. And you have SMU in the ACC, which isn't as crazy, but the fact that we have California and Stanford in the ACC is crazy.
And then Texas and Oklahoma in the SEC.
And somebody asked me, how do you fix it? And I honestly think at this point, instead of doing the divisions that we used to have, with Division I, in college football, it's FBS, and then you have FCS.
Yep, that's right.
I think now you got to do it by NIL.
Wow.
You have to have your NIL has
cap.
to certain cap. If your NIL isn't this, you can't compete with these other, because honestly, that's what we're running into. I mean, we have Carson Beck leaving a top team in the country, not to go to another top team. I mean, Miami's good. But then they weren't Georgia, and getting $4 million.
Yeah, it's
He's getting paid more money than he'll probably get with a rookie contract. And at this point, Michigan had to recruit getting $10 million.
Yeah, Underwood.
At this point, you have to do a salary cap, and you have to take away some of these conferences. You got to put California back into the Pac-12. You got to put these schools.
I missed the Pac-12.
Yeah, you definitely missed the Pac-12. And you just got to tell them, like, this is the NIL cap. If you can't hit that cap, it's going to be impossible for you to compete, because it really is.
And to your point, right, we saw that this year. Notre Dame and Ohio State, the top two salary cap teams in the league, over $20 million for those two teams. And what do you know? Those two teams are the teams that made the championship.
Right.
So it's going to be interesting, because I think you're right. If it continues down that path where you have these teams that are making the most money continually be in those championship games, something's going to have to change. I mean, it's
gotta change.
I mean, again, you think about baseball and what a disaster that's been for so long in terms of salary cap with these owners that don't want to spend. I mean, you have Soto making more money on the Mets than the Pirates have in their entire payroll.
Yeah, it's
like
crazy.
that's what we're going to be dealing with in college football here down the line. I mean, you talked about it with Bryce Underwood from Michigan. Dave Portnoy from Barstool Sports called up some rich person. They got a group together. They raised $10 million to get a high school kid to come play football.
Yeah, he hasn't taken it down yet.
It's crazy. It is so crazy. I do think something's going to have to give down the stretch these next many years. Something's going to have to change eventually. I don't know when that will be. Something will happen where it comes to the head here down the stretch. But I'm with you. I don't think it can continue like this. And again, that's why you have those guys leaving, Nick Saban retiring, those guys quitting college football because they just didn't want to have to deal with that.
Yeah, and I mean, and look, I'm invested in it from the standpoint of I am a blue hen, so they're now going into Conference USA
right. Next year.
And I'm sitting there and I'm like, I don't know how they're going to even compete, because this NIL is crazy, bro.
And again, we shout out to the 302 Collective. That's NIL there at Delaware. They're leading people getting that done, the boosters. But
I got $5 for y'all, man. I'm chipping in $5.
Get us that QB we need there. But how about this? Delaware opening up next year, or I believe week 2 or 1 week around week 2 at Colorado. So they get Deion Sanders in their first game.
Well, if Deion's still there, right?
Yeah,
who
that's
knows?
what everybody's been telling me. I'm hoping that he's there when I get there next September.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's just hard. I think right now we're just at a crossroads with college sports. I think it's reached a level of being semi-professional, and I think a lot of the people that are like, I'm leaving, I think some of those guys are they're the reason why it's like this. I mean, Saban got paid $10 million a season. He was the highest paid state employee of Alabama. He ran the state.
Yeah.
I don't care what anybody says. It wasn't the governor. Whatever Saban wanted to do, wasn't the president of Alabama.
Yeah.
Whatever he wanted to do, he did.
No doubt.
And the guys that are telling me, like I saw Jay Larionga from Miami step down because he's saying basically the same thing.
That's right. Good point there.
And here's the thing. You weren't saying that when you were getting $2-3 million a year to coach what you told me are non-professionals. You were fine with it. It was great. So now that the gun is on the side of the chicken, now it's like, wait a minute, I don't like the way this is. And at the end of the day, I mean, look, these players are going to try to accent their values. Whatever value they can get, whatever the market is willing to yield, they're willing to go after. And I will agree with people. I don't like it. I wish it didn't happen. But I'll be honest with you. When the tales were coming out in the 80s and the 90s of the $100,000 handshakes to get a kid to go to this school and that school and all this underground money that was given. I mean, like HBO had the documentary with Christian Dawkins about how he was paying, Arizona paid $800,000 and $200,000 to go to Arizona.
The Lendell White story, walks into the room, there's a duffel bag full
Right.
of $200,000.
I bet you guys wish we were still back there because it was a lot cheaper then.
Yeah, that's right. You're
I
right
mean,
about
dude,
that.
Now that you know how the sausage is being made, you don't want to eat the sausage. Look, ignorance is bliss, but this is what it is. When people were telling you that these players are worth millions of dollars to the colleges, it wasn't cap. It was being honest. They are worth millions of dollars. And at the end of the day, I mean, look, I don't like it because it does take away some of the feel of amateurism. Mm-hmm. But if I'm being honest, the feel of amateurism has been gone ever since they started paying coaches what pros are making.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point there. But, yeah, I mean, to your point, you thought about Tony Bennett retiring before the year.
Mm-hmm.
I had a chance to talk to someone at Richmond when we were there this year that was pretty close friends with him, and he said he just couldn't do it anymore. Excuse me, just couldn't do it. He said it was just too much on him. He waited till the end of the year, I think, to help retain his staff. So, again, if he would have resigned a few months ago, they probably would have fired the whole staff. So he kind of waited until the season, resigned so his staff could stay on board. Larinaga, you mentioned it. He's not there anymore. Yeah. And, again, we're seeing a world now where you look at those teams like in the CA for the Coast, like you said, University of Delaware, where you get those guys, coming in. If they have a good year, they're gone. If they just have one good year, they're going to a top school. You think about 2 years ago, Andrew Carr was a senior center or a sophomore center at University of Delaware. They won the CA championship. That was the year they went to the NCAA tournament. The next year he transferred, went to Wake Forest, got some money. And guess where he went this year?
Where?
University of Kentucky, playing for Mark Pope.
Yeah,
they offered him $1 million.
Yeah.
Sophomore at Delaware now making $1 million as a senior at Kentucky. It is a completely different world.
Changed up.
And again, I don't know if it's for the good, for the bad, but it's definitely different, going forward.
Yeah, and look, I don't like. Somebody made a video. It was a joke about like they did the pre-game intro, and they were like such and such player from, and the guy like reeled off like the 3 schools he went to before the main school, and it's like, yeah, well, I mean, like that's where we're at. I mean,
that's right.
And again, the adults in the situation kind of made the problem.
Yeah.
So
we'll see. We'll see. What happened? It's a completely different world. And now we're seeing that kind of filter into high school sports. The amount of transfers we had here in the state of Delaware for just athletics has been, I mean, it's insane. It's like a transfer portal of its own. Yeah. I mean, it is just so crazy to think about. So it is a different world that we're living in terms of sports here for sure. But again, college basketball, we'll see how it is going forward. With college football, so much has yet to be determined here. But what a show, Matthew. Thank you. Appreciate it. We are back here next Monday night. As we will then preview the Super Bowl coming up the following Sunday. So for Matthew, Dennis, and myself, we will see you next week. Thanks for tuning in to DETV Sports. Fly, Eagles, fly.